How's everybody doing? Good. Good? You getting some out of what I'm teaching you? Hopefully? Good, good. Today, I want to talk to you about the first stage in the planning process. Remember how I told you that speech is a form of communication that occurs when we plan, create, and deliver a message to others. So we're going to talk about the planning stage right now, and kind of go back to something I said previously, in that to be an effective communicator, you need to expose the logic of how you got to your conclusions. Let people know what you're thinking. Realize that if you didn't get your point across, you're probably right. Okay, so what that requires is us to plan our presentation. So what we're going to do today is focus on the planning process of speech creation. We're going to first let me ask you this. What kind of speeches have you guys been exposed to before?
What do you mean by exposed?
Been to,
Listen to
listen to,
lectures here from college.
lectures, okay. Anything else? A persuasive presentation in regards to,
It's just when people get up and try to persuade you
Sales
that
pitch.
abortion is bad.
Yeah, political
Okay.
debates.
okay, political debates,
Salespeople, sales pitches,
sales pitches, those are all persuasive, yeah.
Amway meeting.
What was yours?
Fireside.
Okay, in a religious arena, you would have what is called fireside. Your Sunday meeting is in that realm as well. What qualifies a presenter, do you think?
Experience.
Okay, experience in
Topic he's talking about.
in the subject matter, okay? That'd be kind of like coming to a class where the professor says he has degrees in math and he's trying to teach you about communication. Probably not qualified, right? Kind of out of the realm of their qualifications. So, that being said, I read a book one time called Life is a Series of Presentations. And the author said this, he said, most of the time stuff just doesn't happen to us. We make it happen by what we do and by the way we are. Okay? In essence, he's saying the same thing. As far as presenting whatever you're presenting, it has to be who you are as a person for it to be effective. And that really is so key. There are 4 steps in planning a speech, and they all relate to this. This is not, this is just kind of you probably heard this before, the who, the what, the where, the when, and the why. We're going to cover those things. So, the first step, let's talk about what the first step is. First step is your subject matter. Now, back in an earlier lesson, I asked you to start thinking about some things you might want to present, subjects. Anybody thought about that and would care to share what you're thinking about?
I thought of one, but then I just forgot.
Okay?
Doesn't know. Sorry, what was the question?
The question was, in the previous lesson, I asked you guys what, to start thinking about subjects you wanted to talk about. Any thoughts come to your mind that you want to cover? Did we not do the suggestion?
I kind of have it. Let's see. As far as,
Okay,
I think one reason why I want to, because I personally want to learn more about it too, is learning about how far you can push your body, like what are the limits to the human body, and why don't we push ourselves harder than we do every day.
Okay, that'd be a good subject. Any others you guys are thinking of? Yes?
I was thinking that we could just teach the class something, because we do that in one of my other communication classes.
Uh-huh.
We just had to teach them too.
Well, what would it, the thing is, what I want, the key here, and this is this time you have to do it now. You know, I suggested it before. Now you have to start thinking about the subject matter. You have 4 speeches you're going to be required to give. So you better start thinking about the subjects, because once we go through the first speech, we're gonna take time and go through. The last 3, you're gonna have to do all of that process on your own. So it's important that you guys really start thinking about the subject matter. This is the what when it comes to your presentations. It is anything, I would, if it was me, it would be anything that you're a mini expert in. If you're, let's say you're a trainer, exercise trainer, talk to us about that. Yeah, whatever it is that you do that you're a mini expert in, or consider yourself a mini expert in, that's what you should be choosing. When people ask you ask you to give a presentation, they know that you're an expert in that. I spent a number of years as president of the Utah Tourette Syndrome Association. And during that time, I was giving speeches on Tourette syndrome, because part of my job as the chair of that organization was to go out and ask people for money. Think that's tough?
Yeah.
That is a tough job to get it. And so I had to be very persuasive. I've had opportunities, my son's teacher in high school was going to college to further his education, and he took a class on learning differences or learning disabilities, whichever you choose to call it. He asked me to come into the class and speak on Tourette syndrome. Now, am I a medical doctor?
Are you?
No. I'm not a medical doctor, okay? But what makes me qualified to speak on Tourette syndrome?
Experience.
Because you're a mini expert.
I'm a mini expert. I've had experience. I raised a son with Tourette syndrome. That makes me an expert.
Probably more so than the doctor at some point.
More so than the doctors a lot of the time, okay? And so what this area that you're a mini expert in is really gives you a foundation to start from. Doesn't mean you won't have to do any research. You're going to have to do research as well on this to get to finalize the thing. So we'll talk about that later too. But this is the first step, is your subject matter. The next step is your audience. This is very key. When it comes to your audience, this is the who. What it means is you need to understand who your audience is. How do we do that, do you think? You guys are awful quiet this morning. How do we understand our audience? Yes?
Well, like in the book it says, like you wouldn't give like a speech that would be centered to like a younger crowd,
Mm-hmm.
an older generation. You just have to kind of have a feel for what their interests are, their age, gender, culture.
Okay, so we're talking about demographics, right? We need to understand the demographics, yes.
And I think too, like you need to know why they're there to listen to you. Like, 'cause a lot of times, if you're going to just give a speech to an audience you don't know anything about, you understand. You need to know why they're there to listen to you. So.
Okay, and there's a lot of reasons that they're coming to see you. It could be that their boss required them to come, right? Okay?
So, with that being said, do we need to consider this classroom when we're, for our presentation?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, because what I'm thinking is, you want us to talk on something that we're a mini expert in.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm a tile setter. That's what I've been doing for the last,
You're what?
tile setter.
Okay,
So that's that's probably the only thing I'm probably a mini expert in.
okay.
Make it a sales pitch. for
How
your
would that
business.
relate to
How
the
would-
students in here?
How would that relate in the sense that, go ahead, you
Yeah,
key it in.
just make it like a sales pitch for your business, you know.
Because if you do that, right, you go out and make a pitch to whoever that you're gonna do a tile setting for, right?
Oh, well, I haven't for the last 5 years. I used to,
Okay,
but I haven't had to.
right. So consider that most of us in this audience don't know how to set tile, right?
So
Okay.
would you want me to put together a presentation on the steps in setting tile or the advantages tile has? What would you be looking for?
You have two options. You could teach us how to do it, or you could try to tell us why it's important to have that. So it's, again, it's, you can almost, we're pretty much a wide variety of people. We got some older folks, we got some younger folks. But for the most part, for tile setting, you can teach us how to do it, or you can try to, and maybe on the persuasive end of it, you try to sell us.
Show us how to do it.
In the informative,
Kind of field trip?
yeah, it kind of depends on what the speech is. We're going to do an informative speech, but we're also going to do a persuasive speech after that. So how do you would have to key in on the informative aspects for the first speech. Does that make sense?
Would it be okay to,
Informing us?
would it be okay to speak to a fictitious audience? In other words, create another audience, like if I wanted to speak specifically to business owners, could I define that in my,
No, because we're not business owners.
Obviously.
Some of us are
Obviously.
not.
Some of us will be, or some
Or
of us
some
are.
of us will
So I
be.
think that still applies.
no,
But-
well, let's say I did, what I'm asking is if I can define my audience as doctors, I'm speaking to a group of doctors,
Well,
or,
but that's not reality right now.
no, it's not.
And so you have, the thing I'm trying to teach you here is you need to focus on your audience. If
To
we
get
were
respective
speaking,
feedback.
if we were speaking
That makes
to doctors, we would change our language a little bit.
Exactly.
We'd have to speak at a higher level.
Uh-huh.
Maybe some of us don't understand doctorese or whatever you want to call it, okay? So you've got to play to the audience that you're at.
Exactly. And that's what I would do if I was speaking
Right.
to a group of doctors, and that's what I would do if I was speaking to a fictitious group of doctors.
Right. So when I was speaking about Tourette's syndrome, if I was speaking to families, my experience base in what I would present would be focused on families. If I'm speaking to teachers, then it would be more on the educational aspects of it. So it's really, think of who we are here. We're all students for the most part. Some of us are a little older, some are a little younger. You know, you have to take all those things into account.
So the answer's no.
Right.
Okay.
In a long way around, no, but I wanted to make sure you understood what I was trying to get at. Okay? I don't like to say no and then not leave you up in the air with it, okay? So, you need to look at the audience's knowledge. What is their knowledge level? Okay? Some of it's here, some of it's here. It just kind of depends on the spectrum. You have to widen that spectrum a little bit if it's not specific enough. If it's a general audience, then you have to kind of play with it there. What do they want to know? Now, what do they want to know? A lot of times, if you're doing a seminar presentation, someone mentioned Amway a while back, you're going to, what do they want to know? So you present what they're there for. They're there to listen to you speak of whatever subject it is, and they want to, you're either charging them if they come and they're paying you $200, $300, $400 for this. It's very important to find out what they want to know. Demographics play a part in it. Do you think the size of the audience plays a part in how you plan out your presentation?
Absolutely.
You know, I've taught classes, most of my classes have been this size. I've taught classes with 5 students in it. Do you think I teach it the same way? No. I teach it a little bit different. It's a little more intimate because we can sit around the table and talk and have a more personal conversation rather than sitting up and giving general information. If you're in a huge auditorium, obviously that plays a part in it. So you have to, in your planning process, you have to consider the size of the audience, and you have to consider their attitudes. How do we figure out their attitudes? We talked a little bit about it when we discussed fear. One of the 10 items we needed to do. We can walk around the audience before the presentation, can't we? And start listening to what's being said. All of those things play a part. Next, you, the speaker. This is where you need to do some soul searching. Why are you doing this? Obviously, this is a required class, so that's one of the reasons why you're doing it. But it goes back to your subject matter. What is your purpose? What is your passion? That's why I want you guys to pick things that are your passion. What do you know and feel about your subject? The reason for that, if you're a mini expert in what you're presenting, it gives you credibility. That's in my experience with the Tourette Syndrome Association. Because I raised a son with Tourette Syndrome, it gave me credibility to talk to people about it. That gave me the background. And the next step is the speech occasion. This is the 4th step in the planning process. So this is your where and when. Let's talk a little bit about venues. When you're giving a speech, the venue's going to play a key point for you. You know, in this class, this will be the class you give the presentation in, so you know the venue. If it's a bigger auditorium type venue, we may have to bring in some maybe extra TV screens so people can see what's going on the PowerPoint or whatever it might be. All of those things play a key part. How about time of day? Any thoughts? Is there a better time than others?
For sure.
Okay, why?
I don't know. I always know our morning math class is quieter than the afternoon class.
Okay.
The teacher says all the time. And at night, you might be able to have a different audience when people are working versus like doing it in the morning.
Okay, there are a lot of ideas out there about the time of day. And some people say, you know, don't do it before lunch because everybody's hungry. Don't do it right after lunch because everybody's full. I mean, when is the perfect time? If you catch them closer to the end of their work day, they're wanting to go home. Yeah. You know, to be honest with you, I don't know that there is a perfect time to do it, but you know, you have to kind of weigh that out as you're deciding this. And there's just different ways to look at it. You know that between 10:30 and 11:45 for this class, that is going to be the time of day that you're going to be doing the presentation. But there is some ideas out there about that, and so we just have to kind of keep that in mind as you're doing this more on a professional level. So this is the planning process is really the first key point or step in speech creation. This is before you write anything down. It's the who, the what, the where, the when, the why. And this is the thing you do, like I said, before you ever write anything down. You have to figure out where you're going to do it. You don't want to have everything planned for one part of it and then not have it for another. Now, there is a journal assignment on the handout. That's one that I want you to do.